Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to continue what we discussed in the previous video, which is LOVs, list of values. In the previous video, we showed how can we extract values from a list, and now we're going to select a value from a list. Let's take, for example, a use case. Let's say we're generating an app, and in this app, we're letting users generate an order, a sales order for a specific customer. So of course, as we can imagine, we're going to get an input parameter with the name of the customer. And for this customer, we're going to generate the order. So how are we going to actually choose the customer from the list? So for example, let's say our customer name is Big Mart, Bigmart. So we have two ways to tackle this. The trivial way, maybe the usual way you do that, is clicking on this button and then we can put the name of the customer here and click on find. So then it gives us this customer, and then we're clicking on OK, and we're getting the customer here. Now, this is a valid way to do that. This is a way which probably a lot of you are actually using right now, but I want to suggest a different way which will make our service much more efficient and much less prone for errors. So for this, let's clear the record. And instead of going into this list and clicking on the button, etc., we're actually going to put the value right here into the input field. So let's write here Big Mart and click on enter. And basically what that is doing behind the scenes is exactly what we did in the previous example, but doing it without opening an additional window and specifically without forcing us to select a value from that window. Because when we're selecting the value from that window, what we actually have in our hand is an index. Now this index, it might be different between users, it might be different between different responsibilities. We don't want to rely actually on this number when we recording our service. So the best practice will be just clicking on the input field and just typing the exact name of the values that we want to select. And here we also need to always be mindful that we're using the exact full name of this customer. Because for example, let's say we're going to choose a customer that starts with an ABC. And if we click enter here, we're actually going to get a list of potential customers that start with this string. So we don't want to do that. We actually want to give it the specific string that we're looking for, the specific customer in our case that we're looking for. Okay, now that we talked about that, let's actually record the service. So again, I'm going to close this form and going into services. Clicking on the create button, I'm clicking on form service. Let's call this generate order, and I'm pasting the URL, clicking on begin. As usual, we have to put our credentials to get into the system, connect, and now here, as we said before, we're going just to click on the input field and type the name of the customer, for example, Big Mart. We're going to click on, we can either click on enter or click on tab. I'm actually preferring doing the tab route since enter sometimes causes some other side effects. And we want, when we're recording a service, we want as less side effects as possible. So we just click on tab here. And we see that we got everything that we needed. And since our service is not only selecting a value, it's actually using this value in order to generate an order. So we're clicking on save. And the last thing here, I'll just click on this order number field. Again, when I'm clicking in an input field and not typing, just clicking on it, this will generate an output parameter, which we'll be able to use later in the service. So I clicked here, and that's it. Now I'm going into the recording pane. I'm doing save and exit. And here, as usual, we have the name. We have all those fields, including the customer field, which is the input field that we'll use in order to select the value. And we have the order number since we clicked on it, and we want to see that we actually received an order number for this order. And if we want, we can just like improve this a little bit by adding an action. And here we want to say, just make sure that we actually have an order. So we're going to say the validation is going to fail when response is empty. It means when we don't have an order number, then it's empty, and then it should fail. That means we didn't do what we were supposed to do. Okay, we'll click on create service right now. And now we're going to test it. Let's run this test. And as we can see, transaction was completed, and we even got our order number, which means the order was generated.